to order. Would someone from council please read the acknowledgement? Would someone from council please read the acknowledgement? Thank you. Councilor Wayne.
To acknowledge that the town of Bruderheim is located on Treaty 6 territory and the homeland of the Métis Nation of Alberta. The town of Bruderheim honors the first peoples of this land. We recognize we stand upon land that carries the footsteps of Cree, Métis, Blackfoot, amongst other nations who have been here for thousands of years. Therefore, the town of Bruderheim has an inherent responsibility to foster healthy relationships with First Peoples and further the calls to action as outlined by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission.
Thank you, Councilor Wayne. So we'll call this meeting to order. It's 7:03 p.m. Is there any additions, deletions, or changes to the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, administration would like to delete 8.2.
Okay, thank you. And anything else? Anything from council? Haven't heard none. Looking for a motion to adopt the agenda as presented or amended. Councilor George.
I'll make that motion that 8.2 be deleted from the agenda as amended.
Thank you for that motion. Any comments, questions, or concerns from council with that motion? Okay, haven't heard none. Call for a vote. Anyone opposed to the motion? And the motion's carried. And we can move on to 5.1, Fort Saskatchewan RCMP update. Not sure if it's going to be virtual or in person.
Staff Sergeant, are you online there?
Yes, I am. I'm just trying to get my video to work here.
Okay.
1 second.
Welcome, Staff Sergeant Pernell St. Pierre. Thank you for attending.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council, for having me this evening. As many of you may have not known, Inspector McCauley has since transferred from the Fort Saskatchewan RCMP detachment. He took a promotion to K Division headquarters in charge of the OIC, in charge of engagement and outreach division, which is a brand new division within RCMP. So I'm the acting detachment commander here for the next little while until a new officer in charge is named. So
You're very welcome. Thank you for joining us.
no, thank you for having me. I'm not sure how Inspector McCauley ran these council meetings with you, what updates you folks are looking for. So just please bear with me. I made some notes here, but I'm always open up for any discussion or any concerns that you folks have from your end. At your your recommendation here, if you want to ask any questions, like I said, I'm not sure how Mike used to do these. So what are you folks kind of looking for at?
Staff Sergeant, are you able to speak just a little bit louder? We're having trouble hearing you here.
Okay, I'll bring this a little closer. How's that? Is that a little bit better?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry about that. Like I said, this is my first meeting here with you folks here, so I appreciate being in attendance. I thought it was going to be in person as well. I was ready to come out there, then I got the Zoom invite, so I said no, it's going to be Zoom, but I see some of the folks are there. I wish I would take an initiative and came out there to see you, but it is what it is. For the Fort Saskatchewan detachment here, I don't know whether you folks heard me about Inspector McCauley leaving our detachment.
Yes, we could hear that and we were aware of that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll just start off with here. I forwarded you folks the town of Bruderheim actual crime stats there for the month of January to December this year there. I did note that the criminal harassment numbers were up 67%. I took a look into those files and that. I can't obviously discuss those files in depth, but however, I could see that those are pretty isolated incidents. They're not random files. They're kind of concentrated to a certain group of people there. But with the criminal harassment portion of it, that includes everything from phone calls to harassing communications to actual criminal harassment. So that's kind of a global picture of that. I was, for myself there, like I said, there, it wasn't widespread. It's kind of concentrated to a certain group of folks there in the community there. I did notice that the frauds were up by 30% as well. And the mischief to property was up by 30% as well. I didn't get a chance to dive into those numbers too much, but with the frauds there, overall, we have been seeing a lot more people reporting on the telephone frauds and the online frauds. So they're more forthcoming towards us on that portion of it. Any questions or concerns about those?
Any questions from our council? I do have one thought that I wanted to bring forward is, do you happen to track the response times to calls to our community?
Yes, we do. I actually just was for those the other day here. It's overall crime stats for the whole community there. I will send you the detailed report here. I just got them not too long ago. Actually, I was sorry, my little one in the back is fussing, so. Sorry, I'm just bringing it up here, just giving you. So you're concerned, are you looking for the response time? Is that correct?
Yeah, we were just wondering if you track them and if that's possible to share with us.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm just bringing it up here. Like I said, I do apologize. I just got these other day here. So
Yeah, no worries. And if you don't have it really handy and you just want to send that out to us, that'd be all right as well.
okay, for sure. Like I said, from memory here, we are actually on average with the whole province for response time. And it is, I think we're around 20 minutes total, but that includes the global thing of the person calling in to the dispatch members to us getting out to the community. So that's what we're looking at, approximately 20 minutes. I'll be more than happy to forward that to Patty there so she could disseminate to the mayor and council.
Okay, and that's average time. Councillor George has his hand up. He has a question.
Yeah, in regard to total federal, I see our numbers are still quite high in them. Is this due to a lot of the COVID activity, or we still have 16 mental health act incidences, other provincial is 21.
Sorry, I'm trying to find out where the other federal is at.
It's on the back page of that assessment.
Sorry, I'm having trouble locating here on page 2. Do you know the category? Federal? Oh, total federal. Sorry, I see it there.
Total federal.
Yeah. Yes, the federal would be in line with the COVID, any COVID complaints. That would be a federal act. And the 16 mental health act calls there, I see that. I haven't looked into that myself personally, but I could definitely get back to you on that, Councillor George, and see where that numbers from.
And the other provincial stats, we've still got 21 incidences of that too. Is there some way that our community can react to helping people get through these situations, or?
I think we can. I think we, like with our members here, we are using victim services quite a bit, giving them out resources, contact numbers in the communities and stuff for people to contact. And the victim services units available asset to us there, so we use them a lot. But any help we can get, if you have new programs in the community, I welcome them. and we would share them with our members. If anybody has contacts for different programs, agencies within the community there, absolutely, we would use any resource available to us to assist in getting those numbers down, or not just numbers, but assisting the people in general.
Thanks for that information.
Thanks for the question, Councillor George, Councillor Wayne, and then Deputy Mayor Judy.
Just a more of a general question. If somebody calls in something from town, do they get a call back as to kind of an outcome of some sort, so that they know that if they see something going on repeatedly, that it's supposed to happen, or A, it's, or B, it's not supposed to happen? Does that make sense?
Every call, regardless of the communities, our members are supposed to, first of all, contact them, get the information to see what's going on, make their assessment. But if there's some follow-up or any follow-up that's done afterwards, they definitely have to be called, but should be calling them back and saying, this is what happened. One example is, let's say, a suspicious person, for example, somebody sees somebody in the community there. So the member should initially call them up, say, could you give me some more information, provide some more details? Yep, here we go. Member goes out, patrols the area. They should call back that person and say, listen, I was in the area, I couldn't see anything. We haven't had no other complaints. However, if you do see something, please call us back. That's the procedure that should be followed by our members.
Okay, no, thank you very much.
Deputy Mayor Judy.
Just a question. What about staffing? Are you up to how many you should have, and what's going on there? And then a second question would be programs in the community. I know we've looked at some before. Have you got anything planned for the spring for us or anything like that?
You beat me to a staffing question. I was going to update you folks on staffing. However, right now we are fully staffed. We have a couple soft vacancies, but those are maternity leaves and sick leave and stuff like that. We do have a couple outgoing transfers. However, we have some replacements coming in. We have a new member coming in shortly here within 3 weeks. His name is Corporal Brian Bishop. He'll be a watch commander. We have 2 experienced members coming in, one from BC and one from the St. Paul area of Alberta. And we have 2 new members from Depot coming in as well. So yes, we're going to be fully staffed, except with the exception of the OIC. From what I understand, OIC is in the selection process, and interviews are being done shortly here to name that successful candidate. For programs, what we are looking at is, I want to reach out to you folks. We haven't done this very well in the past, was to reach out to our communities to see what resources you have there. We have a new member here who's looking for what we call a CAPRA project, and that entitles communities and seeing what we can do for communities. I think that's one area we can improve, is to see what each of our communities offer to us and how we could use them as a resource in the community to get those programs, to know of those programs, to have referrals made to those programs. That is my goal for my members. Normally I am the ops NCO, so I supervise all the uniform members. And that's my goal, is to increase those community contacts, increase those resources in communities. You folks are the matter experts in your community. You know your community, you know who's who, you know who's to contact, and we want to start utilizing that to benefit the communities. So absolutely.
Thank you. Any other questions, Deputy Mayor?
So what's an example of this type of program that you're talking about?
Counseling is for one. If you have counselors in the communities there, any local counselors, that anything like that. I don't think we've done well enough to get that information from our smaller communities, and it's a valuable resource to us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And you're aware of our Heartland Citizens on Patrol?
Absolutely. Corporal Greco Savoy is the one who's in charge of that, and she keeps in regular contact with them. So they're very valuable to use, and we appreciate them.
Okay, thank you. Councillor George has another question.
I'm looking at total motor vehicle. I see a drop, but I am concerned about the drop, whether it's due to not as much patrolling or lack of members to patrol. things that don't change, but when you see a drop like that, it makes me think that maybe we're not doing enough patrols, or there's some reason for we're not catching this.
For the total drop in control, there's two factors to that, I believe. One is COVID. Another one is due to the winter snap here. We didn't have as many people on the road, both public and member-wise, because due to coldness. We do have a couple members who are very proactive with the communities and on the road and stuff like that. But I could definitely look into that a little bit more and get back to you, Councillor George.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question, Councillor George. Getting back to your question about programs in our community, the school, I believe, has a counselor, and I was just wondering, does RCMP still connect with the schools at all, like DARE program or any kind of programs?
For myself there, I made a mandate for our members to reach out to the schools in all the smaller communities. The city of Fort Saskatchewan does have an SRO program, but they pay for that. And unfortunately, that member does not leave the city of Fort Saskatchewan. But with myself, I'm encouraging our members to reach out to those schools, to get to know the schools, to be more participating in the schools with any activities, regardless. I'm a big community police enforcement person. I love community policing. My background mostly is community policing, and I enjoy it. And I want my members to start taking part of those communities as well.
Thank you. Any other questions from our council for now? No. Well, thank you very much for the presentation, and we look forward to that extra information. Hopefully you'll be able to send that to us, and we'd like to get the opportunity to meet you in person and welcome you to the town of Bruderheim.
Absolutely. I just got two more things if I could take part of your
Sure.
time. I will be reaching out to you, to the mayor and council shortly here in regards to our annual performance plan update. I'm sure you folks are familiar with that. So our new fiscal year is coming up here in April, so we will be reaching out to you to get some input from you folks to what your concerns are in your communities are, whether it's traffic or domestic violence or anything like that. So I'll be reaching out to you shortly in that to do that. And also another thing is that we are going to be hosting a virtual town hall on March 15th. That is in the very early stages right now. We're still working on the logistics, time, how long it's going to be in the topics and stuff like that. So I just wanted to give you folks a heads up that it's on March 15th, so you're aware, and the invites will be sent out. So
Thank you very much. So once again, thanks for doing this presentation, and we look forward to meeting you in person, and we'll accept this information from you in your presentation. And we'd just like to say welcome to the town of Bruderheim.
well, I've been out there a few times. Highway 45 restaurant there is very tasty. So.
You bet.
And I did that. I was there out there for the Chamber of Commerce meeting there a little while back there. So that was nice to see. I got to see the meteorite and stuff like that. So it was nice. I like it. So like I said, I'm a community policing person. I love it. But we need to do more, and we need to improve and reach out to you folks. So
Thank you. Have a good rest of your evening, sir.
thank you. Take care, all.
And congratulations on a new role.
Thank you.
So look for a motion to accept the Fort Saskatchewan RCMP Staff Sergeant Purnell's report as information. Councillor Wayne.
The town council accept the Fort Saskatchewan RCMP update presented by Staff Sergeant Purnell St. Pierre on February 2nd as information.
Thank you, Councillor Wayne. Any comments, questions, or concerns with that motion? Any thoughts? I just wanted to say thanks again to Staff Sergeant Purnell, and I look forward to meeting you in person. Thanks. So call for a vote. Anyone opposed to the motion? And the motion's carried. Have a good evening, Staff Sergeant.
Thank you. Have a good night, all.
5.2 Resilient Rurals. We're going to have a presentation from Jill Yant.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jill, are you ready to present?
Yes, I am. Yep. Good evening, everybody. It's really great to see everybody's faces, even though they're small virtual faces on my end. It's been a while since I've been able to present to you, and two new council members that I haven't been formally introduced to yet. So special hello to Councillor Carter and Councillor Jacobs. I have two very special guests join me this evening. We're going to do an update for you for Resilient Rural. So I'm just going to ask Jillian to share her screen for me, please. Perfect. Thank you, Jillian. So Resilient Rurals, we've had this project going on for about 3.5 years now. It's a partnership between towns of Bruderheim, Gibbons, and Lamont, and our focus is resilience and climate change adaptation in Alberta's industrial heartland. I've been leading the project. Bruderheim is the lead partner. And what it is that we're creating is a new approach for small communities, created by small communities. A lot of the resilience work and climate change adaptation work that is typically done is done by cities. So this is a really amazing initiative that council and administration has been really progressive in supporting me, and I'm super grateful to be part of it and the contributions of everybody. We completed a regional resilience plan in 2020, and outcomes within that regional plan included an action plan, communications plan, an implementation plan, and a networking plan. And there was a lot of work that went into that, a lot of working group meetings with our partner communities. And so what we're going to present to you tonight is what's coming out of that regional plan.
Don't sell yourself short there, Jill. We very much appreciate the work you do for the town. Do you want the questions at the end of the presentation or during, or what would you prefer?
You know what, if you have a question based on what we're doing, feel free to interrupt. We're fine with that. So the 3 priority areas of our regional plan consisted of climate priorities, social priorities, and business continuity priorities. So for climate, it's everything from flooding to the agricultural impacts, air quality, that type of thing. Social priorities is raising awareness for public preparedness, mental health. That was something that was identified in our communities as a growing issue. And business continuity priorities. So that's based on administration, but also support for local businesses for business continuity. So, and again, that ranges from having, our critical files and critical plans for what we need in case of an emergency.
Jill, just a question on the slide you were just on.
Yes.
Under social priorities,
Yes.
The support for vulnerable populations, does that include homelessness?
Yes, and that is one of the great projects I'm super excited to be updating you on tonight. So we'll have some really great information for you.
Thank you.
So one thing that
Jill, Councillor George has a question.
Okay.
Just to add on to Carl's question, support for vulnerable populations.
Mm-hmm.
Does this also reflect on people with adverse health conditions? Say if there's change in climates or change in the atmosphere and stuff like with alerts and stuff. Does this cover that also?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's one of our vulnerable populations that we're looking at is, an example would be the individuals that are sensitive to changes in air quality based on health conditions, or also sensitive to changes in temperature. So the really extreme heat waves, those people that will be significantly impacted, those would fall within our vulnerable groups for sure.
And what is the resources for that support?
So what we're doing is we're setting up a very specific program for vulnerable communities, and we're calling it Rural Assist. And we have some information coming up that will answer those questions for you.
Thank you.
Yep, no problem. So as small towns, we realize that everything that we do is based on our limited resources. So communication will be one of our strongest tools in the work that we do, whether it's preparing our residents, reaching out to our residents with critical programs, or raising awareness in staff and our neighbors. So the way that we set up our regional plan was really based on a communication umbrella. So communication encompasses those three priorities that I mentioned before: the climate, social, and business continuity priorities. And you'll get a sense after we give a little bit of an update here on the communication materials, how those communication pieces are going to help us deliver on those priorities. So we were really lucky to be selected as part of the University of Alberta ART program. So that's Adaptation Resilience Training. We have 2 project assistants. They're recent U of A grads. We got them for 8 months. They started in, I believe it was September, and we have them until May. And it's Jillian Calvert and Claire Croning. So they're here with me this evening, and they're making all of my Resilient Rural's dreams come true. They're doing such amazing work. And so, yeah, as I mentioned, I'm really, really excited to show you the things that we're accomplishing. And the funding for that program was provided from Natural Resources Canada and Alberta Environment and Parks. And I will take that as a place to interject that the work that we've completed to date has been supported fully by grants. So we were also successful through FCM and through the Alberta government for the regional planning work that we did. And so this evening, Jillian and Claire are going to give us an update on the Communications Toolkit that they've worked on, the Resource Hub, which is part of that Communications Toolkit, the Rural Assist program that I mentioned, a community water strategy, and a cooling center strategy. So with that, I will let them take it away. And
Welcome, Claire and Jillian. Thank you.
Thanks, Jill. And hi, everyone. Hi, Mr. Mayor and Council. It's nice to meet you virtually. My name's Claire Croning, and my partner Jillian and I spent the last few months creating the Communications Toolkit, and we are pleased to share that we have launched it to the website in January and have started rolling out our social media strategy. And the kit covers the 3 priority areas laid out in the resilience plan. To give you an idea of the scope, in total, we've prepared 45 fact sheets covering topics from protecting your home in hazardous weather, staying safe in extreme heat, and how climate change could impact agricultural production, to much more. Each one of these fact sheets can be used to support the town's communications on an as-needed basis. And we also have 55 complimentary social media posts that can be shared by Bruderheim to town followers. The toolkit was developed for a few audiences, one being town residents. We wanted to create education material that would help increase preparedness among the community, as well as raise people's awareness of climate issues. And there are also pieces written for town staff and policymakers like yourself that describe which important issues, risks, and impacts there are to consider when planning for resilience. And finally, we've prepared information for agricultural producers about how climate change could impact their production. Our communication strategy has 2 parts. First, we are making a central hub for our information on Resilient Rural's website through our resource hub, and using our social media platforms to make posts on monthly topics. February's topic is climate resilience, so take a look at that. And last month's was climate change. And the second part of our strategy is to then increase our reach by leveraging our partner town social media and newsletters, and have people share and promote Resilient Rural's content through them. And again, all the material we have is available to anyone from towns to use how they would like for presentations or public engagement events. And as I mentioned, our resource hub is live on our website. I encourage you all to go and take a look at what it has to offer. We envision it as a one-stop shop for community members and resilient leaders across rural communities. And that wraps up the toolkit. If you have any questions, we can take them now.
Claire, yes, I do have a question. First of all, fantastic work. Thank you very much. I'm just wondering, is that a Resilient Rural's website linked to the town website?
Yes, there is a section just dedicated to Bruderheim and links to all the different social media platforms as well as the website. And Bruderheim is mentioned numerous times on different pages of the website.
Okay, and my second question is have you been able to reach out to like Fort Air Partnership, for example? They have a lot of great information on air quality in our region, and one of the main sources of air pollution in our Edmonton metro region is actually car exhaust, and just wanted to make sure that the opportunity exists there, maybe for some partnership with Fort Air Partnership for that information.
Sure. So that's Fort Air Partnership?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah, we can take a look at that.
Thank you very much.
Mayor Hope, just to build on that answer, part of our future work will be a networking plan, and Fort Air Partnership is definitely on our list to be making and building relationships with. And there is link to Resilient Rurals on Bruderheim's website as well.
Thank you.
Perfect. All right. So moving on to the Rural Assist program. So one of the key social priorities in our regional adaptation plan is to support vulnerable populations, as we discussed earlier, and groups that are more susceptible to the impacts of climate change. So this will take the form of kind of one of our biggest projects, the Rural Assist program. It's going to be an opt-in program that identifies vulnerable populations and residents that may require increased assistance. So the key goal and branding of the program focuses on climate adaptation and works to ensure vulnerable people are not left behind when an emergency or severe weather event strikes their community. So the key program objectives include identifying vulnerabilities within the town of Bruderheim, increasing support for vulnerable community members during severe weather events, providing a program template to other rural communities. So we have developed a survey that we aim to put out fairly soon. It will be administered through various mediums to Bruderheim's residents. Residents' information and climate vulnerabilities will be stored in a private registry, and the data may be useful in informing the town's future risk assessments. We have also analyzed 2016 census data to gauge the general vulnerability of the town. The program will also encourage residents to sign up to receive emergency alerts through the town's Everbridge system. We aim to enhance the system and cater alerts to residents' specific risks. So, the Rural Assist program outline is also in development, and it's nearly ready to be posted to our website. We hope that other communities can also use the outline as a template for their own vulnerable populations program. So, the Rural Assist program was developed with these climate vulnerable groups in mind. If you take a look at this list, I'm sure you might know someone who might fit into these categories. You know, these include people who might be susceptible to changes in air quality, wildfire smoke, more frequent heat waves, and those with reduced mobility who may not be able to readily evacuate in a severe weather event. So our information sheets also outline this a lot further, and this is also in our program outline. The outline contains a lot more information on the logistics of the program and research on climate change vulnerability, and it should be released shortly and summarize the Rural Assist program. So any questions on that?
I just wanted to say, Claire, thanks for that information. What's really great is this program is a partnership with 3 communities. Am I right?
It is, yes. And that's why I think I had meant to actually put Bruderheim, Gibbons, and Lamont.
Yeah, and one of the resources that's available for helping identify vulnerable sections of our communities might be the local FCSS. Like Bruderheim is a part of the Lamont County FCSS, so I don't know if that's a resource that can be tapped into to help with that. But thank you for the great information. And you mentioned that there's some more information coming, so I guess we'll get copies of that.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, it should be coming out fairly soon. Yeah, it's this Rural Assist program outline. You can see the cover of it here, and it should include a lot more information. The program is going to be piloted in Bruderheim, so that's why the focus is kind of in Bruderheim right now. We have capacity to use the Everbridge alert system through Bruderheim, so we think it'll be more seamless to try it in Bruderheim and then transfer to Gibbons and Lamont. And yeah, the SPSS, we'd love to get in touch with them. I think they're on our list of people we want to reach out to. And we did visit the Gibbons Family Resource Center as well, and that was a really great experience.
Awesome. And in the presentation, there was little snippets of fact sheets and social posts and information there. That'll be part of the social media blitz, those pieces of information.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to have each month will be dedicated to a different topic, and one of those topics will be focusing on vulnerable populations. And yeah, if you check out the website, we have a section on vulnerable populations, and all of those info sheets are on there. So yeah.
Great, thank you.
Perfect. All right. Any other questions?
Deputy Mayor Judy.
And I hate to ask this question, but I have to ask it. Because seniors are normally vulnerable, most of them aren't online. Whether I absolutely disagree with it, but that's the way it is. How do we get them online, or how do we get them involved in something like this?
Yeah, that's something we were toying with as well. Originally, we were looking at having kind of a buddy system, having volunteers sign up to potentially check in on vulnerable residents or help out with shoveling walks or things like that. But with COVID and like some logistic issues, we weren't sure if that could go ahead. But that's definitely something that along the way would be really awesome to implement as part of this program. We do want to have our survey readily available in different locations for people to access, like with paper copies. So we're hoping that that can reach that senior population.
Thank you.
Yeah, the seniors clubs, I'm sure in all of those communities are fairly active, and there might be ways to get hard copies of that to them. And
yeah.
For example, I think the Bruderheim seniors have a community breakfast upcoming, so those type of events are still a possibility to reach out to them, to give them some of that information and get their survey feedback.
Yeah, that would definitely be great. We're definitely trying to utilize all those senior clubs and things like that to reach out to the community. And then obviously also homeless populations or other groups that might be difficult to reach. So.
Just to build on that, yes, yeah, our plan is to include all different community groups in the outreach part of gaining awareness for that survey. And there's some other ideas as well, like block parties and whatnot, getting out into the neighborhoods, trying to make those connections that are more difficult to make online, and all COVID dependent, of course. But that is definitely part of the plan.
Great. All right, so I'll just move on to our next project. So another key climate priority we were looking at is water supply shortage. So our community water planning guide is in development and includes research on the impacts of climate change on our watershed, summaries of our 3 partner towns' drinking water systems, and analysis, case studies, and potential action plans. So the main goals of the water strategy are to increase communication and education on water conservation and stewardship, to implement water saving applications in public facilities, to focus on the use of drought-tolerant native plant species in town landscaping, and to liaise with the Water Commission on a potential water supply shortage plan. So in the event of water contamination or sudden loss of water.
Claire, just a quick interjection there. Are you guys familiar with the North Saskatchewan Watershed Alliance?
Yeah, definitely.
That
I
might be
actually,
another resource.
Yeah, I actually used to work with them last summer. So we had a meeting with them a couple weeks back, and they had lots of insight and interesting information to share with us. So we're definitely talking to them. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Perfect. So currently, water shortage is not an extreme risk for Bruderheim, but climate projections do estimate warming of up to 4 degrees Celsius with current carbon emissions by 2059. So this warming will impact the North Saskatchewan River watershed, reducing snowpack in our headwaters and leading to reduced stream flows and increased drought risk. So this is why we're exploring a water shortage strategy now, so that we have a plan in place when the impacts do become more severe. So these images here are just showing some of the impacts that we might be seeing. And one of these is a projected climate will be similar to that of Brooks, Alberta. This is all from the Climate Atlas. So this table is in development, but we ultimately envision it being used by policymakers in our 3 partner towns and potentially by other communities as well. So these potential actions demonstrate what a water shortage plan could look like if it was implemented. And it was informed by our research on case studies of Brooks, British Columbia, and California, and the various programs they are utilizing to deal with droughts. So these include the water conservation efficiency and productivity plans, water conservative landscaping policies, in-town landscaping, and implementing an effective water conservation communication campaign.
Hey, Claire, just a thought. In reading the book Bush to Bushels of Bruderheim's history, when the first folks came out to settle out here, they walked out from Edmonton and they felt that the land here was unsuitable for farming because it was so thickly wooded. And it's interesting that now we're going back to landscaping and planting trees, and maybe that would help with controlling flooding. Eh?
Yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm. I think so. Yeah, flooding is one of our next projects that we want to get started on. So definitely exploring all of those ideas for sure. Any other questions on this section?
Councillor George.
When we talk about flooding, do you work closely with our County of Lamont in regards to diversification or diverting water streams? That is seems to be one of our primary concerns within our county here. Water that's diverted to where it's not supposed to be, causing flooding. Is that an issue that your team is handling?
Councillor George, that is something that, once we create a water plan, that we can start having conversations like that. Drainage often is a big issue, particularly for rural communities. This document that we're working on will essentially set us up to have those conversations. So we're having conversations with Town of Lamont right now about the issues that they've had in the past with flooding, but definitely that's we're on that path to be able to have those conversations.
That is one of the biggest concerns that I have, is water diversification and where it's going to end up. Something that really needs to be talked about in this county, because of the fact that it has disrupted commerce, it's disrupted agricultural production, and has become quite a tax burden on the county and the communities.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, no, we'll definitely make a note for that for future conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Councillor George.
We have been in touch with someone who works in infrastructure with Lamont. We talked to them about some of their new flood plans, and we talked to them about their past flooding issues as well. All right, so just moving on to the cooling center.
Okay, yes, so this is our final project that we have to present today. It's our Community Cooling Center Guide. So extreme heat is becoming a reality for the province. So to address this, our goal is to develop a plan for making a cooling center available in your community. And we also want to provide support to vulnerable people, and this ties into the Rural Assist program. So this guide we have made will serve as the foundation for making plans that are tailored to our partner communities. So this will soon be available to Bruderheim to help make a formal cooling center plan for the town. And with this guide, we hope it's a faster, easier process and also more effective. So what the guide offers is a framework for policymakers and frontline service providers on how to develop cooling center plans that are ready for when extreme heat strikes. The guide contains best practices and recommendations for planning, implementation, and evaluation, as well as a projected forecast for extreme heat in Alberta. It includes a discussion of extreme heat impacts, as well as some context for how cooling centers can be integrated into a larger heat alert response system. So as we can understand, resident health and well-being is at risk in extreme heat, and some more than others, going back to that list of vulnerable populations. So last year, during the week of the heat wave, Alberta saw 66 more deaths than the same week that year prior, or the year prior. And it's very likely this increase was driven by the heat wave, and these losses could happen in the community. So heat also lowers industry productivity, and it can strain energy grids as people crank up air conditioning and fans. So we need to think of ways to offer community relief. Historically, in the 70s to early 2000s, there was a low chance of a heat wave in a year, and we saw an average of 3.4 hot days in the summer. But now projections are showing that it's very likely from now on to have a heat wave each summer and to experience an average of 9 to 10 hot days. So when Bruderheim staff use the guide, they'll be able to see at a glance what considerations there are for site selection and accessibility. They'll see what and who they should have on site. They'll also see new recommendations for how to conduct outreach to vulnerable community members, cooling efforts. And they'll also get specific advice for how to promote the cooling center to the community and how to coordinate that promotion with heat health and heat risk messaging. And of course, this is made simpler too with the Resilient Rural's Communications Toolkit and the Rural Assist program in place. So our goal is to see this guide used to create a formal plan for Bruderheim in preparation for this upcoming summer season. And that's the Cooling Center Guide. You can take questions on it if you'd like.
Thank you for that, Claire. Doesn't appear that we have any questions at this time.
No? Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you very much, Council, and thank you, Jillian and Claire, for all the incredible work.
Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation. In closing, I do have one question to propose. So you mentioned, Jill, that the assistance that you have there from Jillian and Claire ends this coming summer.
Yes.
And so we've been very fortunate to be able to operate this under grant programs. What is the likelihood we'll be able to continue with this program? Like, is there more grants coming from the province, do you think, or? I
expect so, yes. And we'll definitely be looking for further grant funding for different parts of the project. Jillian and Claire are going to get us really well set up with the items that we have laid out in our regional plans so that we can essentially quite simply move forward with the pieces that they're creating. And that will really smooth the operations that I had in my mind and that our communities were working towards. So they're setting us up really well, and then absolutely we'll be looking for grants.
And Mr. Mayor, if I could just add to that, I'm sure you see a lot of similarities between this amazing presentation in emergency management. And so a lot of what they're doing ties to our emergency management programs. So I see in the future that resilient rurals will fall under that budget item. That's where we'll be looking for grant funding through.
Yeah, yeah, and that's kind of where I was going. Is this going to eventually fall on under budgets for the towns that's represented by the resilient rurals? Yeah. So if there's no further questions, thanks again for your time, and we look forward to more information coming in the future. And again, I wanted to throw a shout out to you folks, an encouragement to everyone that's listening online to go and check out the Resilient Rurals website and take a look at that information there. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too.
We look for a motion from council to accept the Resilient Rurals presentation as information. Councillor Wayne.
The town council accept the Resilient Rules presentation of February 5th as presented by Jill Yantich, Claire Croning, and Jillian Calvert as information.
Thank you for that motion, Councillor Wayne. Any comments, questions, thoughts from council before we vote on this motion? Okay, I haven't heard none. Call for a vote. Anyone opposed to the motion? And the motion's carried. And we move on to adopting minutes. We look for a motion from council to adopt the minutes from the January 19th, 2022 regular meeting of council. Deputy Mayor Judy.
I make a motion that we adopt the minutes of January 19th, 2022 regular meeting of council.
Thanks for that motion. Any comments, questions, or concerns with the minutes from that meeting? Haven't heard none. We'll call for a vote then. Anyone opposed to the motion for the minutes of January 19th? Hearing none, and the motion is carried. So we move on to council priorities. We'll start with information requests, and we'll start with Councillor George. Any information requests, Councillor George?
Yes, at one time we used to have a progress report on requests. I haven't seen that tool used for quite a while. I wonder if it's been just put to a side or we don't use it anymore. Just be kind of a guideline to see where we were at with different goals.
Mr. Mayor, that's a great point. We still use it. And I think I committed to sharing that quarterly with council. So we'll get that to council. That should have came in the last quarterly report.
And I have one other thing. As I was driving by the new motel, I noticed we put in a fire hydrant there. It's kind of in a vulnerable position. Is there any way that we could put some kind of protection there so that if somebody comes out of there that not looking, it doesn't get run over?
Mr. Mayor, through Councillor Campbell, I'll let Mr. Thomashat address.
Mr. Mayor, through Councillor Campbell, good evening, everybody. Yes, that hydrant was noted that we are going to put 2 protective boulders on either side. Obviously, we have the alley right there, and it is pretty close to the outgoing of the hotel. We just didn't have the time last year to do it, and infrastructure wise, we just wanted to let the ground settle from what we did. So there will be 2 protective boulders going in, hopefully in the spring, early summer.
Thank you for that. Something else I'd like to bring forward to Public Works. I have to thank them for all the diligence they put in to try to keep our towns safe and the roads clear. Kudos.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor George. In any other information requests, Councillor George? Thanks for that, Director Thomashat. Moving on to Councillor Carter. That's right. I was going to say your first name, so sorry. Thanks.
Nothing at this time.
Councillor Wayne?
Nothing at this time.
Councillor Len?
Nothing at this time.
Councillor Dina? Okay, thanks, Councillor Dana. You didn't have any information requests right now. Your mic isn't working. Councillor or Deputy Mayor Judy.
Couple things. I see that their residents are constantly asking about our rocks and all that kind of wood chips and all that kind of stuff for the roads. I know it's not doing any good, but is that going to be starting to cost us more money than what we've got in our budget for?
Mr. Mayor, through Deputy Mayor, I'll let Mr. Thomas address.
Mr. Mayor, through the Councillor Schuler or Deputy Mayor Schuler. So this has gone above and beyond what we budgeted for. There are a tremendous amount of people accessing those chip bins. However, they're accessing them with, and we saw one individual pretty much empty the bin on one visit. So we never anticipated this sort of use. Typically, the chips were always used for their sidewalks, perhaps their walkway going up to their house. We're not seeing that. We're seeing them being spread all over their driveways and what have you. So there is, for lack of better words, a little bit of abuse of the system. And for that reason, we will no longer be able to provide chips the rest of the season, but we will be providing sand and salt at a much lower cost. We are in excess of over $2,000 already in chips, and we can't sustain that dollar value. Does that answer your question, Deputy Schuler?
Yeah, that answers it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question, Deputy Mayor Schuler, and thanks for the answer, Dennis. It speaks to the severe weather that we've had this winter, and it's definitely something that our residents are looking to for a resource. So thank you for that. I don't have any information requests, and we'll go around the table the opposite direction for program requests. So Deputy Mayor Judy, any program requests?
Nothing at this time, no.
Councillor Dana, no. Councillor Len?
Nothing at this time.
Councillor Rain?
Nothing at this time.
Councillor Ashley?
Nothing at this time.
And Councillor George?
Nothing at this time. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to 8.1 Asset Management Policy in 107.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Purpose of this report is to request the town council consider an asset management policy for the town of Bruderheim. The town council approved the asset management policy FIN 107 as presented on February 2nd, 2022. Administration has made reference to the importance of asset management and the link to capital and budget processes. Strategic plan areas, asset management system is a tool to track our assets and maintenance of them. Open and transparent governance, as asset management provides information for good decision-making for capital and budget processes. Summary, this infrastructure in our community is a multi-generational investment made by local, provincial, and federal governments. There's a value of investment made in our community infrastructure and the risk we face by not managing it on the long term. Asset management is a process for making informed decisions to achieve the goal of deliverable, sustainable services and managing risk and getting value for money. It assists with capital planning and budgeting processes, understanding of levels and services required, and mitigating risk. Local government has responsibility for service delivery and asset ownership, looking at what scenarios might unfold and how we prepare for these scenarios to evaluate how infrastructure will work throughout its life cycle. Risk to service delivery and what best practices can be implemented to minimize life cycle costs. Administration knows that many of the federal and provincial grants require that communities have an asset management program in place. The next step will be to prepare an asset management strategy to support this policy and other documents and initiatives already approved by council. Communication plan, this policy will be shared with staff and placed on our town website, and we've attached the proposed policy, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for that. So we're looking for a motion from council to approve the asset management policy. Councillor George.
I make a motion that town council approve the asset management policy PIN 107 as presented on February 2nd, 2020.
Thank you. Any comments, questions, or concerns with that motion? Deputy Mayor Judy.
Well, I definitely think it's a good policy. And actually, I think as I was doing my interview with Roxanne Carr, we were discussing this asset management and how that was going to work into our system. So thank you very much for bringing that forward.
Yeah, very timely. Echo that thought very much. Councillor George, are you needing to? Thank you for that. Is there any other comments, questions, or concerns on this policy? I haven't heard none. We'll call for a vote. Anyone opposed to the motion? And the motion's carried. So we can move on to 8.3 now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Administration would like to provide council with information to transfer funds from reserves for purposes of paying off our remaining balance of account number 4000-899 with the Alberta Capital Finance Authority. We're asking the council recommend that they approve the transfer of up to $35,000 from Reserve R4 to pay out the debenture on the cat wheel loader. On December 15, 2021, council passed the 2022 capital budget, which included the purchase of a newer wheel loader to replace our existing loader. Council was informed during the budget process that the disposal of the existing loader would require the debenture payout of approximately $30,000, which was held by the Alberta Capital Finance Authority. The current debenture on the cat wheel loader is funded through Reserve R4 on an annual basis, and as such, we are funding the paying off the debenture early from the budgeted reserve. The reserve currently has a balance of $81,574. Strategic plan areas, safe infrastructure, maintaining our current assets ensures the continuance of current service levels while ensuring sustainable infrastructure. Open and transparent governance and administration, a community that is aware of debt servicing to ensure well-maintained assets. Other impacts, legal and ledge, Municipal Government Act, RSA 2000, Chapter M26, Part 8. The disposal of an asset that is funded through the Alberta Capital Finance Authority requires the existing debenture to be paid out before disposal of that asset. The Director of Corporate Services will be advised to notify the Alberta Capital Finance Authority that we will be paying out the remaining balance on account 4000-899 and proceed to submit final payment. Mr. Mayor, if I can just add, we're asking for the motion to be up to $35,000 because depending on which day we pay it off, they will give us an exact amount. So somewhere between 30 and 34,000.
Thank you very much. Looking for a motion from council for this cat loader debenture payout. Deputy Mayor Judy.
I make a motion that town council approve the transfer of up to $35,000 from Reserve R4 to pay out the debenture on the cat wheel loader. Thank goodness.
Thank you for that. Any comments, questions, or concerns? Councillor Wayne.
So does this account, is this where all the debenture comes out of every, like the full amount every year?
So, Mr. Mayor, we paid $10,000 a year, which comes out of that account. Yeah. And we had 3 years left to pay on that. So.
Okay, so this won't this will put us down to about 45,000. Is that gonna put us in harm's way at all, or is this gonna be?
So, Mr. Mayor, we'll be coming to council through Councillor Aleko. We will be coming selling some other equipment and stuff that will go back into that reserve. Yeah, we're a little bit low right now. We're hoping that we'll be able to do some transfer from hopefully some surplus, and every January we have that reserve policy that builds that up again, right? So.
Okay. And kind of I know it's kind of hard early to tell, but is there like a ballpark number you guys are looking at for the loader?
Mr. Mayor, through Councillor Aleko for the new one?
No, for the one that we're getting rid of here.
Oh, how much we're going to get
selling
for
this,
it?
or
We're trading it in on the new one.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't have a value kind of what it's gonna...
We do. Mr. Tomaszak could probably share that.
Mr. Mayor, to the Councillor Lesko. So coming forth on the agenda, there's an amended capital budget. I think that perhaps if council's okay with that, I would discuss it at that time.
Okay. Then one other thing is there a large penalty to pay it off early, or is there what is the penalty versus what's actually owing on it, I guess?
Mr. Mayor, it looked like when we got our first estimate, there's about a $380 penalty for paying off early at this stage, because we only had 2 years after this year, right? So
it's
we're
not
only paying it off 2 years early. Yeah.
Okay. No, thank you.
But I can provide council the exact payout when we get it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Wayne. Any other comments, questions, or concerns from council with this motion? I just wanted a clarification. The reserve it's coming from is tagged as Reserve R4. What is that designated for? Is it just for paying loans, or?
Mr. Mayor, that is for infrastructure and maintenance. So any equipment, buildings, anything like that we're doing maintenance or purchasing of. So it's not just for loans.
Okay, so like if we want to purchase a new grader in the future, that would be coming from this reserve.
Absolutely, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions, or concerns from council? Haven't heard none, call for a vote. Anyone opposed to the motion? And the motion's carried. So we move on to 8.4.
Mr. Mayor, administration would ask seeking approval for the disposal of the public works loader that we replaced and will be replacing and trade off against the purchase of a newer loader. We're asking that council approves the disposal of the following: HE 607 cat wheel loader 908H. HE 607 was purchased in 2010 for $106,000 and funded through the Alberta Capital Finance Authority. The loan payment reschedule required 30 payments of $4,748 over 15 years. Continuing with the scheduled equipment replacement program ensures that Public Works continuously has safe and reliable equipment to service the town's needs and minimize repair costs to older equipment. Town and Council approved the purchase of a new loader in the 2022 capital budget with the understanding that the existing loader HE 607 would be disposed of. Strategic planned areas, infrastructure, and the maintenance of current and future infrastructure requires reliable and safe equipment that has low maintenance costs. Other impacts: policy, vehicle and equipment disposal policy, legislative and legal, occupational health and safety legislation, Act and Code SA 2017 C0-21. Summary: the equipment replacement is intended to ensure that we maintain the efficiency of town services and the safety of our town staff. The forecasted cost of repairing the loader would soon be in excess of half the cost of the newer and larger loader. Industry standards state that once the repairs exceed half the cost of the replacement equipment, it is the time to dispose of your existing equipment. HE 607 will be traded in on the purchase of a replacement loader. Communication will be informed. Information will be shared with Director of Public Works to follow up with. Enclosure, vehicle and equipment disposal policy SER-81.
Thank you for that. Looking for a motion from council for the Public Works equipment disposal. Councillor George.
I make a motion that council approves the disposal of the following HE 607 cat wheel loader 908H.
Thank you, Councillor George. Any comments, questions, concerns, thoughts? Councillor Len.
Good evening, Dennis. So what are we getting for that loader?
Can we, Mr. Mayor, through to Councillor Flardo, can we bring that up as I told Councillor Letko? That's coming up in the capital, and then perhaps I can give a little more detailed explanation, if you would be good with that.
Well, it's kind of pertinent to this because we're disposing of it. It'd be good for us to know what it is that we expect that we're going to get for it. No?
Yeah, I can. I mean, I'm going to say the same number when we come into the capital. So right now on trade, we're getting 47.5 on trade for it.
So actually more than what we owe on it.
That is correct, which is what we were hoping.
That's good news. Thank you. Thanks for the question, Councillor Len. Any other comments, questions, or concerns with that motion? Councillor Dana, just a second.
So like you said, Patty, CEO Patty, what if we make extra on that, that goes back into that account, correct?
So, Mr. Mayor, through Councillor Jacobs, no, it's part of the purchase, where we're purchasing it from, we're taking it on trade, so it lowers our purchase.
Okay.
Great amount of money that we have to.
Okay, yeah, trade, sorry.
Yeah,
Wrong day.
No,
Wrong
that's
day.
okay. It's a great question.
Yeah.
Any other comments, questions, or concerns from council? I do have one question. We're told that it's approaching half of the cost of or the value of the loader, what we're paying for repairs. What have we paid this year so far on repairs for that loader?
Well, Mr. Mayor, so far this year, we haven't paid anything, but it's only January. So you mean 2021?
This season then?
Would you like me to answer that, CEO Patty?
Yeah, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, so actually this year, I'll just, Patty hasn't seen some of the invoices, but this year we are into the loader with repairs at about $2,200. Last year we were into the loader for just a little over $5,000. So without going into great deal of explanations, we are nearing that hour meter that we're looking at future breakdowns. But again, there's a purpose for that loader, and I think we covered that in our capital budget discussions in December. And so going forward, you'll see what more of what I'm trying to get at. But we have spent dollars on that loader so far in the last year. Since I've been here, I'd have to round it up, but we've spent a lot of money maintaining that loader due to the fact that the loader has outlived its initial use that it was planned for.
Thank you for that. Now, the reason I was asking is because it was mentioned that it's approaching half of the value. So I was just wondering if we knew what the figure was. Thank you. Councillor George.
Can you elaborate, Dennis, on the efficiency of that loader in comparison to the loader that we had rented, which is the exact loader that we will be mentioning in the capital discussion, and what it cost us to mitigate those deficiencies?
So again, I would ask council's indulgence to go into the capital budget amendment, and then I can give a little more details if I may, because I think we're going to end up covering this again. So if not, I can give an answer now, but I think you'll see the answer in the amendment coming up.
I'm fine with that, Dennis.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor, as far as I know that council, this council wouldn't remember, but the council before I think we had spent upward around 50,000 on repairs, major repairs since 2015.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions, or concerns? Just to play a devil's advocate on the loader, if we weren't to sell the loader and we were to keep it, and people were to say, well, then you could use that loader to assist with a new loader to help speed up snow removal. Do we actually have anybody to operate it, or we'd have to hire an operator?
Mr. Mayor, we would be operating that equipment, but again, so I'll go with CAO Patty on the council prior. There was reasons that we purchased some of the equipment that we did. Skid steer in particular was always meant to be a replacement. That's because of the size that we bought for the loader, because we knew the loader had outlived its initial design for what we wanted it for. So I guess this kind of touches a little bit on Councillor Campbell's question is we wouldn't, by going to another loader, we don't have to worry about hiring a contractor anymore. That will be out of play, and that'll be a big savings for us, but also it'll be the convenience of having that equipment and being able to tackle some of these more challenging winters that we've been having in a more timely response.
Thank you for that. Any other questions from council? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. Anyone opposed to the motion? And the motion's carried. And we move on to 8.5.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is request council approve the 2020 capital budget as amended. They were recommending that town council approve the amended 2020 capital budget as presented. The 2022 capital budget was presented to council on December 1st, 2021 for discussion. The total of the 2022 capital budget is $635,000. The capital budget is funded from MSI capital of $580,000, reserves of $20,000, CCBF of $35,000. The total of the 2022 amended capital budget is $965,000. The capital budget is funded from MSI capital of $555,737, non-MSI grants of $234,263, reserves of $20,000, CZBF of $115,000, and other fundraising of $40,000. Strategic plan priority areas, planning and design of future assets, as well as the rehabilitation and revitalization of current assets, plan maintenance and life cycle repair, the creation, purchase, and construction of new assets, public presentations of the capital budget to allow for public input. Other impacts, legislative and legal. Pursuant to section 242 of the MGA, council must adopt the capital budget for the calendar year. Building a responsible capital budget involves allocating resources to meet today's needs and requirements for long-term financial sustainability. Several factors must be examined in terms of capital projects. The pressures of infrastructure maintenance, growth, and new capital projects must be balanced against the impacts on future operating budgets, staff resources, and available funding. It is critical to rethink, revitalize, and preserve our capital assets in order to meet community priorities, accommodate a vigorous and resilient economy, and continue to provide the essential service residents rely on each day for health, safety, and enjoyment. The previously approved 2022 capital budget is being amended for the following reason: the addition of the community park playground after receiving federal funding for that project, change the source funding for lagoon dredging as it now can be funded by the CCBF, and change the cost for the purchase of the loader with attachments. Upon council approval, administration will make the approved amended capital budget available on our website and shared with staff. And we've attached the amended as well as the approved capital budget for 2022.
Thank you for that, CEO Pat. And so we're looking for a motion to approve the amended 2022 capital budget as presented. Councillor George.
Make a motion that town council approves the amended 2022 capital budget as presented.
Thank you, Councillor George. Any comments, questions, concerns, thoughts? Councillor Len has one.
Yeah, looking at this, it looks like we had a bit of a windfall. Somebody was giving us more money, obviously for the playground and stuff like that, so it enlarged that number. So that I see again, too, we got some money for the dredging. We're getting a different funding source for the dredging.
So, Mr. Mayor, through Councillor Pilardo, yes, to address your first question, I applied for a grant a year and a half ago that we were just told we received. And so the project has to go forward this year as a condition of funding. The second question, lagoon dredging. As you know, the CCBF, which formerly known as the gas tax, used to be very strict about roads, sidewalks, trails, anything adjacent to the road. And they've opened it up to some underground work. And so the MSI can be used for anything. So what we're suggesting, anything we can get funded by the gas tax, that we take that road and use that funding, because it's such a narrow scope of things you can use it for. So that's why we're moving it over.
So one more question. So I see we're buying a little bigger, or a newer and older than anticipated.
Mr. Mayor, I'll allow Mr. Tomashat to talk about the loader that he's researched and is recommending that we purchase. And again, when we presented this in December, that was a ballpark guess of 125,000 that we would need. And Mr. Tomashat and his team has done a great job looking, and I will let him talk about the loader we're proposing.
Yes, so Mr. Mayor, through the Councillor Flatter on all council. So yes, we've spent an exhaustive amount of time trying to find a loader. I think if council remembers, the BC floods pretty much took most of the loaders out of the province, and from rentals to new. We did come across this one and from our perspective, it does meet all the criteria that we're looking for, both now and in the future for growth. Very low hours, 2,600. If you could recall, if council recalls, I was looking for something under 5,000. This actually exceeded what I was looking for, which is great. It also comes with a couple of attachments, which is something that we will be using, which are forks and a boom. And again, with this type of loader, we will not have to contract out another loader when it comes to snow removal and or any type of earthworks. CAO Patty alluded to that we will have some work to do on a playground this summer. Again, there will be some in-kind work that will have to be added from the town. This piece of equipment will fit that criteria very much so, as well as some landscaping of some hills, specifically up in Brookside. We're looking at, excuse me, we're looking at reshaping that hill for the kids to be able to slide down and have somewhere to go. And that's the big hill in behind the school and between the apartments and the school. So going forward, I feel very comfortable with what we've gotten. I've taken my safety supervisor who has quite a few more years of equipment background than I do. We've driven it, we've researched it, we've talked to different contractors that have that type of equipment, And we're very comfortable knowing that we are getting a good piece of equipment. And again, I got to stress, not just for now, but for the future growth of this town, we won't have to upgrade. So with that being said, I'd open any questions up from council if they like.
Council has any questions? Councillor George and then Councillor Wayne.
I've got to add to Dennis's statement. I sat down with him yesterday and we went through the specs on the loader. The loader does meet our requirements. The loader's got a 220 horsepower Cummins diesel in it, which is almost 3 times the horsepower of what we had. It comes with a 4.5 yard bucket. One of the features with that bucket too, it can be set to the weight that you want to carry in that bucket, which is a safety component there. As well as it's got low hours on it. It's 2014, so that gives us about an 8-year-old piece of equipment. The one other thing that I asked Dennis, and this machine has not been used in any plants or in gravel pits. It's been used in a service yard where there's been no contamination is due to dust and chemicals. It has the horsepower there to mitigate the use of a snow blower if in the future we decide to buy one for that. Safety features, it has a rear backup protector. It has the air shutdown feature on it. The interior of the cab is very user friendly as far as controls, even to the shifter where you have an armrest. Has as well as it has a very advanced heating system in it for operator comfort. This being said, if we look into the future, this piece of equipment, even though it is 15,000 more than what we are asking for, what we're previously asked for, will more than pay for itself over its longevity and efficiency and the needs of the town. As Dennis reiterated, there's work in the town that if we wanted to do with our present equipment, we could not do. And then for that reason, we would have to contract out. There's a savings in itself. As well as servicing, we talked about servicing. There is a dealership within a 50-mile radius of us here, so that we can get parts of what we need and servicing. This machine is identical to the loader we had here to do the snow removal with our last effort. And talking to the owner of that piece of equipment, in the 10 years that, or the 8 or 10 years that he's owned that, he has replaced one water pump to the tune of around $3,000, which is a great savings there. What else can I say other than the fact I think Dennis has done his due diligence. He has talked with his safety rep and conferred with him and got his input. And he come to me and as a rep for the council. I think this being said, I think this is a one step forward for us and for the future.
Thank you, Councillor George. If you could please turn your mic off. Any other comments, questions, or concerns from council? Councillor Wayne.
Yes, thanks, Dennis, for doing all the homework and making sure that we're getting what we need, and it's going to do the job. So thank you for that. Just a quick question. It says $140,000. Does that include the over and above that we're getting back for the sale of the new one or the old one? Sorry.
Mr.
Or-
Mayor, through Councillor Alecko, yeah, that's right. So it's 140 plus our trade.
Okay, so we're putting in 140. Okay.
Yeah.
So that it's 150,000-ish,
Total cost,
157,
187.5.
180.
180.
7.5,
Where am I not seeing
190 probably
this?
with GST, but we get it back because we're getting 47.5 for the trade and we need 140, right?
Okay, got it.
And again,
Uh,
remember, we get our GST back, but we still have to pay it.
Yeah. Okay. Just another question in regards to capital budget going forward. Where do we see Zamboni for the arena being? Is that in the near future, do you think? How are we sitting with that?
Would you like me to answer that, CEO Patty?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, it's in our 5-year capital plan. I remember seeing it there, just,
Just to touch on that, it is in the 5-year capital plan. Both Zambonis, I know you're going to see in the report that we are having problems with the Olympia, but that is just a wear and tearable item. The Olympia is actually in tremendous shape. I'll give this council and past councils kudos for enabling Public Works and Administration to be able to maintain that unit, and it's actually in very good shape. I don't foresee any problems with that unit in the coming years, other than minor maintenance stuff, which is exactly what we're dealing with right now. Wear and tearable items that we have to replace. The older Zamboni, that just never stops. It just keeps on chugging, and that's actually what's doing our indoor rink and our outdoor rink. So we're very fortunate. A lot of towns our size do not have 2 ice resurfacers, and we're very fortunate and that this council and administration had the forethought to make sure that we had something for that outdoor rink, which in turn has now been able to help us out in the shortfall of our Olympia being off-site getting repaired. So I don't see any need to look beyond our 5-year capital right now, and I'm quite comfortable with that.
Okay, so the repairs that are going on are just wear and tear. Right, okay. Thank you.
and Mr. Mayor, if I could add, the delay in parts is like for everything else right now, right? So typically in a normal year, we would have seen the parts in and back on the ice faster, so.
Thank you for that, Councillor Wayne. Any other comments, questions, or concerns from council? I have a question on the loader that we're purchasing. Do we have to pay the costs for moving it to our community?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we do.
What will that cost?
We got a great price, Mr. Mayor. We have a lot of friends.
That's awesome to hear. So
I'm
we're
hoping
getting
that
one of
answers
our,
your cases.
yeah, that's great. And the loader that we're purchasing, does it come with a assessment report by a mechanic on the condition of it?
This one here, due to the low hours and the condition, just the aesthetic outside conditions, we didn't ask for the report. We had the history of it and the fact that we've driven it, et cetera, et cetera. No, there was no set. We didn't do a mechanical assessment. We feel confident enough with what we know to get that, and just the history of it. We're good with it. So nothing. And Mr. Mayor, this would be no different than the skid steer that we purchased. It was a used skid steer. It had a little more hours than this one, but same thing. We do put our confidence in ourselves and in the ability to be able to see any shortfalls of the equipment that we would buy.
Okay, thank you. And when we chatted, Deputy Mayor has a question.
Go ahead, finish.
Go ahead.
So quick question. I noticed on our playground, Patty, there's $40,000 and that's from fundraising and stuff. So technically, if we had any clubs in town that had any extra money and really needed some stuff to do, they could put it toward like our outdoor rink or all that kind of stuff, and we could maintain that stuff a little bit easier too, because that's where that stuff is coming from, hey?
Yeah, great question, Deputy Mayor through Mr. Mayor. So we do have a trust account set for fundraising, and currently, we're sitting at about, so this was the grant that we particularly got is 75% of the total construction cost. So we do have to kick in 25%. And so currently we have the fundraising account, but we need additional roughly 40,000, which I'm asking council to approve come from MSI. But my hope, as you know, in the past, when I've asked council for this, we were able to raise that funds. And so we'll be looking to raise approximately $40,000 for the completion of the park.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. And what time frame do we need to raise that extra 40,000?
Mr. Mayor, so again, we're borrowing from ourselves. And so the thing about fundraising, it can come after the shovel's in the ground. When you apply for grants, you cannot use the grants after the shovels hit the ground. Like you can't apply for another grant for that project once the construction started. So we'll really be relying on donations and fundraising to raise that 40,000. The reason I need this now is to get it out to tender, to get it, tenders typically for playgrounds have to be out by mid-February. Ours probably won't go out till the end of February now. And yeah, to get that stuff in the ground by summer. So we're hoping for completion date of September.
Thank you. The question I was going to ask is, last time we debated about the capital budget, it was brought up about the arena air ventilation system, that there was going to be a potential fix in the offing. And we're just going back to that, wondering if that's happened or.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I may, we're actually engaged in doing an assessment of the arena on all the heating and ventilation systems. So I'm looking forward to seeing that assessment to see exactly what we're looking at for future costs to maintain that building now and in the future, of course. So this is a free assessment. It isn't costing the town any money. So both myself and CAO Patty have engaged the services of a contractor to give that assessment to us. And I hope to have something for council next month, perhaps up to 6 weeks from now to get that assessment. And I'll be in a much better position to answer your question.
So then we'll have a better idea on what that's going to actually cost us to repair in the future. Because right now we don't really know, right?
That is absolutely correct, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions, or concerns? And the reason, just so that council is aware why I'm asking that, the last time we voted on the capital budget, I voted against it because I still wasn't convinced about the floor cleaning machine versus doing the air ventilation. And now knowing that we're going to do an assessment and have a real number targeted to what that will cost and what the fix will be, that helps. Thank you. So if hearing no other questions from council, we'll call for a vote. Anyone opposed to the motion for the to approve the amended 2022 capital budget? And the motion's carried. So then we can move on to council committee reports. Looking for a motion from council for approving the council committee reports as information. Councillor Ashley?
That council receive the council committee reports as information.
Thank you, Councillor Ashley. Any comments, questions, or concerns with that motion? Hearing none, call for a vote. Anyone opposed to the motion? And the motion's carried. Now looking for a motion from council to receive the mayor report as information. Deputy Mayor Judy.
I make a motion that council receive the mayor's report as information.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Further to what you see on the mayor's report, there's a couple items that have occurred since prepared that document. The meeting on the February 2nd today for the North Saskatchewan Watershed lunchtime webinar, I was unable to attend. I did attend today a check presentation from Alberta Treasury Branch for $5,000 to the town of Bruderheim. And that's about all that I have to add to the mayor's report. Is there any comments, questions, or concerns, Councillor George?
Have you had any conversation with the Water Commission lately?
Water Commission has a meeting this Thursday for the subcommittee to discuss the ongoing issues with the Northeast Commission. And I can share with you the results of that at the next council meeting, if you wish, Councillor George.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments, questions, or concerns with the mayor report? Please turn off your mic. Thank you. Hearing none, call for a vote. Anyone opposed to that motion? And the motion is carried. So now we're looking for a motion to go out of the public session. Councillor Wayne. Oh, sorry, jumped the gun. You're right. CAO report. Looking for a motion to approve the CAO report as information. Councillor Wayne.
The council received the CAO report as information.
Thank you for that motion, Councillor Wayne. Any comments, questions, or concerns with that motion? Okay, hearing none, call for a vote. Anyone opposed? And the motion's carried.
Mr. Mayor, I think that was a good idea what we did last time with the correspondence. Let's get that off the sheet now. We can get into closed session. The public doesn't have to wait.
Okay, but we still have to go into the public session once the closed session is completed to adjourn the meeting. So, but if council is willing to change the agenda up so that we do the correspondence and information items now, we can certainly do that. Is council in agreement?
Yeah.
Looks like we are. So before we entertain a motion to go out of the public session, for this time, go to number 11, correspondence and information items. Would someone be willing to make the motion to accept that as information? Councillor Wayne.
The town council accept the listing of correspondence and information items for the period of January 14th, 2022 to January 28th, 2022 as information.
Thank you, Councillor Wayne. Any comments, questions, or concerns with that motion? Haven't heard none. Call for a vote. Anyone opposed to the motion? And the motion's carried. So next item on the agenda is closed session. So looking for a motion to go out of the public session. Councillor Wayne.
Make a motion to go out of open session.
Thank you for that. Anyone, any comments, questions, or concerns on that motion? Haven't heard none. Call for a vote. Anyone opposed to the motion to go out of the public session? And that motion's carried.